I don't think we ever have to worry about people mispronouncing your name, do we?
No, we don't, but I wish they'd say it without a smirk. You'd think, given how many copies of Harry Potter have been sold over the years and how rabid the fan base of that series is, people would know how to pronounce J.K. Rowling's name. However, according to J.K. Rowling herself, that isn't the case, to the point, out of sheer frustration, she stopped bothering to correct people when they mispronounce it.
So for the record,
Yeah.
how do you pronounce the name and how do we know that that is how it is pronounced?
It is pronounced Rowling, and we know this because J.K. Rowling herself has gone on record as saying in multiple interviews, pronounce my name as if you're saying the word rolling. I'm not really going to make fun of that because, you know, glass houses and all that shit. And also because I don't really want to disappoint someone with like a disapproving parent arms crossed look as strong as J.K. Rowling's.
That means I have to use that picture.
Yeah, you have to use that picture, yeah. Unless there's another picture of her standing there all stern with her arms crossed like that.
I mean, if that's her default pose.
Well, it's the author pose, isn't it?
Oh, it's how crossed arms looking stern.
Yeah, it's how authors stand on the back of like books and things like that.
Or in a fancy armchair with a fireplace.
Yeah, or the other one, the one that they use in Family Guy. It's, oh, I even got your author's portrait commission. Is Brian really buff with a black t-shirt on like that? I love that one.
I was going to say, the other one is hand to head.
Yeah, he's just touching your face like that, just doing like James McAvoy's Professor X.
Yeah.
It's the temple touch. Do you know he came up with that? Because he was like, oh, Patrick Stewart, you can't emulate Patrick Stewart. How do I make my Professor X different from his? Temple touch. And that's it, that's all he does.
Does that mean he can't use his power if he doesn't temple touch? Like, he's added that level to his character.
Well, I don't know, it's like Professor X does it in the cartoons a bit, but that's where the famous image of Do Not Fap comes from, isn't it? Where Professor X's psychic powers alone is like, ah! Oh man, that's going to get gift, innit? Fuck. You know what, Brad? Just like, if people do want to do that, just replay that bit again in slow motion so everyone can use it. Yeah, I love how James McAvoy was like, you can't really emulate the performance of Patrick Stewart. So what I did is I said, right, he's putting the finger on the temple like that. And that was apparently how he went, yeah, that's my Professor X. That's how I'm going to own the role. And it's like,
my favourite thing about it now is when they compare the two pictures and go, he looks like this in 10 years. And you're like, wow, he's had some bad years in his life.
And the idea that the film X-Men Apocalypse existed just so James McAvoy could lose his hair. That film existed for that one reason. But you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of a TV show called, and I know this is a bit random, and we're talking about J.K. Rowling, but Canada's Worst Drivers.
What's
people
that
don't know,
got to do with
right?
it?
Bear with me, right?
Okay.
There's a show on Netflix I recommend called Canada's Worst Drivers. And me and my housemate used to watch this all the time because there was a guy on it who was so bad at driving, he was losing his hair.
I'm assuming through stress, not he was getting caught behind the steering wheel.
He was losing his hair. But we came up with the theory that he was so bad at driving, his body decided that he didn't deserve the gift of hair. And that reminds me of Professor X, where his body's like, that's, I think, one of the theories about Professor X. His psychic power was so great, he pushed all the hair out of his head. Like that one. Or that one like Lex Luthor, where people like the theory that he was bald because the reason he's bald is because Superman spilled chemicals on his head as a kid. Which I think is fucking brilliant. It was a great thing. It was like asshole Superman. It's like, oh, Lex Luthor's not really bald. Superman sneaks into his bedroom every night and shaves his head at super speed. Do you know what I love about Professor X though?
What?
When you play X-Men games and they bring Professor X into them. Because obviously we all know Professor X is in a wheelchair, so there's not really much you can do with the characters in a wheelchair. Unless, and I don't know which game it is, but you'll find it, Brad, and put the clip in. There is one X-Men fighting game for like the PS2 or something like that, where Professor X is an unlockable character, and he's in his wheelchair, and he can do wheelchair combos. Professor X has a move in that game when he sits in his wheelchair, raises his hands like he just doesn't care, and flies into the air while rotating. And it's fucking brilliant. And I want more games where you do that. I want more games where you do sick wheelchair katas to people.
Games? I want that in the films.
Well, he uses psychic. No, Magneto picks up the wheelchair and just beats people with it.
And McAvoy spends the whole time like that with his hand on his head.
And just you elbows people with it. Oh, we've got an idea for a film here. A team-up movie.
In Wolverine Origins, when they do back-to-back, it's him and Magneto
We just-
back-to-back, and then Magneto uses the power to swing him round.
Well, it's like the one that gets me is in the first X-Men movie, you see that Joe Magneto, the second one, he rips all of the metal out of the guy's skin. Or maybe it's the third one.
It's the second one he escapes from jail. He takes the iron out of his
He rips
blood.
all the iron out, and it makes like from a tiny bit of iron ball, he turns like a really flat thing.
Yeah.
I just wondered, why doesn't he do that all the time? Why isn't everywhere Magneto goes, he being constantly like just surrounded by a cloud of iron particles, travelling at Mach 3? Because you know what? That's a fucking villain. You walk in, it's just a cloud of supersonic iron particles walking towards you. How do you fight that? So, I guess we're going to send in the guy who can fire like lasers out of his eyes. Oh no, he's been turned to mincemeat. So how do you fight that? Magneto should be doing that. Magneto should realistically be wearing an Iron Man-esque suit. You know, the extremist armour from Infinity War? That should be how Magneto looks all the time. He should have a thin layer of metal over his skin at all times that is controlled by his mind that makes him fly and have superpowers.
The thing is, right, Magneto, does he fly because he's got metal in his shoes?
Yes.
So why doesn't he flip upside down every
Because he
time
has metal in his entire...
upwards?
The story reason is he has metal in his entire costume,
Right.
so he lifts that metal. Which is why I don't get why he doesn't just use a liquid metal and just become like the T-1000, just walking to... Because I would love to see a T-1000 with just fucking Ian McKellen's face on it.
What level of manipulation does he have? Could he make a T-1000?
Potentially, yeah.
Just sit on the sidelines like a glass of wine, just making the T-1000 do the work for him.
No one says he can't. Yeah. I think he should, because there's that bit in there is like the Newton's cradle going, and it's done by his magnetic powers.
It's just done in the background, isn't it?
I want to see a Magneto where he just kills everyone with a flying, just a amorphous blob of metal that he occasionally turns into a dick shape just to insult people. I want to see Magneto assassinating world leaders with a dildo made of metal fired at Mach 3 that turns into a middle finger behind the person's head and then flies into space. He could do it. He has the power. Well, that's one of my most frustrating things watching superhero movies, and it's the lazy use of a superhero's powers.
I think Green Lantern is the most obvious example.
Yeah, I can make anything with my mind. I'm going to make a giant fist or a gun. It's literally the thing from SpongeBob, isn't it? And here comes a giant fist! It's that. It's that. Or like in the X-Men movies, where it's like, the guy with super speed, they actually show the guy with super speed being the most powerful OP motherfucker in the world. Because he would be. Yeah. Because to move at that speed, his reaction times have to be 1,000 times faster than any ordinary human. So you can't fight that guy. So good that they took him out of the movie.
Well, they took him out of the movie, then he broke his leg.
Yeah. Because
they had to find a way to
he's too powerful.
Yeah.
Because that means he's got reaction times above what any human could have. Bringing that back to the Harry Potter universe, there's so much stuff in that universe that's underutilised and it really pisses me off. Like when he goes, Accio Firebolt, and it flies from like his room and it somehow makes its way downstairs and out of some windows to find him when he's fighting that dragon. Why don't more people use that? That seems like a really good spell to cast.
Do you need to know the exact object you're summoning, or can you just say the word and it'll come to you? Can you not say Accio Horcrux?
Well, they try that, don't they? But there's spells have been cast against and stop that happening. But the other one that gets me is Dobby. We all know, you've got Dobby and you've got Creature. And we may have talked about it before, like creatures who are so good, they can break the magic around the Horcruxes. Because Voldemort never suspected elves to have such powerful magic. And then he has the Sword of Godric Gryffindor. This impossibly badass sword that can kill anything, including something that can't be killed. And it's like, okay, immortal slave, do my bidding, go anywhere, be invisible. I've got an invisibility cloak. So I've got an invisibility cloak, slave that does my bidding can go anywhere, a sword that can kill anything.
I remember last time we talked about this, you were like, it'd be great to just give Creature the sword and the invisibility cloak, and all the comments were like, if you give him the invisibility cloak, you give him an item of clothing.
Well, give it to Dobby then.
Dobby's
already a free elf.
Yeah.
And Dobby will do his own shit. And it always makes, in the books, it's not in the films, but in the books, the final battle of Hogwarts, they say all the elves join in the fight at the end. And do you know how the elves fight? They get kitchen knives. And they stab people in the ankles. Wow. These things we see can click their fingers and fire bowling balls and bludgers and stuff. Why are the elves stood there at top, clicking their fingers, firing knives at all the bad guys? Why are they attacking hand to hand when we know for a fact they can bewitch ordinary objects like a bludger and make it target someone's elbow? Why are they not clicking their fingers and sending 40,000 knives at people? Why is Dobby not Magneto? Why is Dobby not stood like Magneto like this, floating on just like a bludger as just a whirlwind of knives flies around him as he flies through all the Death Eaters? And Voldemort goes, I'll challenge this, and he just goes, click, takes his wand. My wand now, fuck you. 5,000 knives.
You know what, Karl? You're really enjoying these spoilers. For you, in front of Hogwarts, a floating Dobby surrounded by knives.
Oh, can you do that? Could you make that a reality? Can you Photoshop that for me? Because that's what it should be. I hate underutilisation of powers that are explored earlier in media. It pisses me off, especially that bit in the books. The Elves are like the most powerful race in that book, and they attack people with fucking sticks. When we know for a fact they can like fly and teleport anywhere. It's like, give fucking Dobby that invisibility cloak. Give him the Sword of Godric Gryffindor and tell him to fuck shit up. You've got an assassin right there. That's a film I'd watch.
Because that's a book in itself.
It's more the fact that, oh yeah, Dobby dies, someone throws a knife at him. It's like, you couldn't have cast Protego. Or Protego, however the fuck you pronounce that protecting spell. Protego. That's not the first thing you do like against the most useful member of your entire team. In all this world of magic and the ability to heal wounds, a small stab wound is not something you can heal. Bear in mind, earlier in the book, you see Harry lose every bone in his arm, and they grow back.
Just by drinking some potion.
Yeah, or earlier when you see Snape undo Septum Sutra. With
Septum Semper.
Septum Semper or whatever the fuck it is, where he undoes that with his wand. And he does that easily. And you've got Hermione with you, the most talented wit, and she can't undo a stab wound.
It's not even. I don't think it's anywhere important, is it?
No.
Unless they've got their hearts and like their hips.
No, it hits him like in the it hits him directly in the chest, but he's still got enough life left in him to like, give her like a monologue. So if you've got time to do that, you've got time to be like whipping up a potion. Also as well, why don't they give Dobby a portrait?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and also why is the portrait of like Dumbledore always asleep? Very convenient. The most useful character in the thing who's got all the knowledge we need to beat Voldemort asleep. Why can't they just walk up to the painting and shake it and wake him the fuck up?
Or get someone from a different painting to walk
Oh no,
over
but I want you to do it on your own. It's like, no, we're literally dying. Hundreds of children have been killed. Your literal child army is being slaughtered by these large men. Please help us, Dumbledore. Something weird to note is that the inability to correctly pronounce J.K. Rowling's last name seems to be limited exclusively to American fans of Harry Potter.
What do you mean just American fans?
We're not making fun of Americans here. Rowling herself has noted that she's met fans from virtually every possible background, from every culture, every race, every creed, every socioeconomic background, every accent in the United Kingdom, and they all can pronounce her name correctly or don't act like an asshole when she corrects them on the pronunciation if they do happen to mispronounce it. This doesn't seem to happen in the United States, though, and she said virtually every person she ever meets in the United States butchers her last name to such an extent she's entirely depleted her salvo of givable shits.
So how do they pronounce her surname in the States?
The two most common mispronunciations are Rowling and Rawling, which kind of makes sense because the W in her last name, so people assume it either rhymes with the word howling or scrawling. However, it doesn't, and J.K. Rowling has repeatedly corrected people on that in the past. And I did some research and I found the only person she's ever had an interview with in the United States who seems to be able to pronounce her name correctly is Oprah, of all people. Because you know what? Oprah can do no wrong, apparently.
Oprah's a saint.
Oh, she is, isn't it? I love Oprah. Man, can we just say, is the greatest running gag in TV history the Drake and Josh gag of Josh fucking loving Oprah? Is that the greatest running gag in history? Because I love the fact that he's just in love with Oprah. that episode where he runs her over with his car.
What?
You've not seen Drake and Josh?
I watched Drake and Josh, but I don't remember him running Oprah over with a car.
As well, can we say as well, that show is hilarious to me now, because obviously the beginning joke at the start is, oh yeah, Drake Bell, and is it Josh, what's his last name, the actor? It's something, oh man, I forget. I'm sorry, guy who plays Josh in Drake and Josh. I forgot your last name. But the joke is, oh yeah, Drake, he's like so cool and suave with all the ladies. And like Josh is like his big bumbling fat ass. But by the end of the season, he's lost all the weight. So Josh is better looking than Drake.
Yeah, I remember when Josh turned up in, what was that one with Owen Wilson where he's stopping the bullies?
I don't know.
There's that film.
The only thing I know that the guy Josh is, I know that he's in like one of the Ice Ages as like a fucking muskrat or some shit with Sean William Scott.
But yeah, there's a film
no, they play
where...
possums. Him and Sean William Scott play possums in Ice Age. Man, that's a team up, that, isn't it? Sean William Scott and Josh from Drake and Josh. But oh man, I love Oprah so much.
What happened to Drake?
Oh, he's in a band.
Is he in a band?
Yeah, he's still in his band, and he's still making... Every now and again, he just goes on Twitter and shits on Justin Bieber. What an absolute lad.
Live your own life,
Why
mate.
not? Oh. It's like, I think as well, the reason I love that running joke with Oprah, I think the guy, Josh, he posted on Twitter, just like, I'm coming to get you, Oprah, or something like that, when he got his driver's license.
My favourite running talk show joke is the one between Jimmy Kimmel and Matt Damon.
Oh, where he doesn't know who he is. Oh, we've got Matt Damon's coming on.
But then it's grown now to a point where it's something ridiculous. Like there's one where Ben Affleck smuggles Matt Damon on inside his clothes.
I'm a big fan of the one on Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
Or is it the one with Paul Rudd? Where he always shows that clip from Mac and Me.
So you're saying that Rowling was getting annoyed that Americans weren't pronouncing her name properly?
It's not so much the mispronunciation that annoyed her, it's the fact that when she tried to correct Americans who mispronounced her last name, they'd always say, no, you're wrong. And they'd act really indignant about it. So, oh yes, Miss Rowling, if you like to come with something, actually it's pronounced Rowling. Just want to get that clear right now. And then, no, it's not. And I can't imagine how frustrating that would be, to be told you're wrong about the pronunciation of your own name. And she said, in interviews, I got so sick of correcting people and them telling me I was wrong that I just stopped caring. And that's kind of depressing, that, isn't it? To think that your name, the thing that identifies you as a person, you just got tired of correcting people on how it's pronounced because they'd always argue with you about it. Imagine the levels of unearned confidence you have to display to think correcting someone on the pronunciation of their own name is going to go down well after they've already told you it's wrong. So, I can't think of a parallel for how stupid that is.
I don't know what they think they're going to get out of it. Is she going to call her parents up and go, guys, you were doing it wrong all these years?
I want to know, what is the end game of the person telling Rowling she's wrong about how to pronounce her own name? And they go, Miss Rowling. Actually, no, it's Rowling, but it's a common problem. We just address that now. We don't have to say anything more about it. No, you're wrong. And she just goes, oh, well, fuck me. I better call up my publisher and all that shit.
You know what? You can have a writing credit in the book.
So, what do you think's going to happen other than her getting pissed off?
Here's all my money. Thank you. I've been having this problem for years. People keep trying to correct me on mine.
Thank you.
That's not how my name is pronounced, but no, you've been right all this time.
It's, oh my God. And that's what I find so hilarious. It's not that people keep mispronouncing it. It's that when she corrects them on the mispronunciation, they tell her she's wrong. It's like, it's my fucking name. An inadvertent side effect of Rowling's increasingly chill reactions to people mispronouncing her name, because she just doesn't want to argue with them about it, is that now all those incorrect pronunciations I just talked about are listed alongside the actual pronunciation of her name on Wikipedia.
How can Wikipedia, who are obsessed with things being factually accurate, list an incorrect pronunciation?
No, alongside the actual pronunciation, which J.K. Rowling has gone on record, as I mentioned, as saying that's the only way it's pronounced. That's because, fans of hers and people on Wikipedia argue, and this is my favourite part, that because J.K. Rowling has stopped trying to correct people, that means it's okay to mispronounce her name. So what they're trying to argue on the talk page, which I invite people to go look at, is that even though J.K. Rowling herself and the entire collective world media pronounce it this one way, these other pronunciations are equally as valid because they say so. Everyone in the world pronounces it one way, but I pronounce it this way, so that's got to be correct. And they point to the fact that J.K. Rowling doesn't correct people anymore as the argument for why they should be listed. And the reason she doesn't correct people anymore is because this exact thing happens. I'm not surprised she stopped arguing with people, because can you imagine that? It's like, well, on Wikipedia it says this. It's like, but I'm saying it's pronounced this way. Me, the owner of the name, the person you invited to this interview.
You just see one guy wading in going, well, I met her last week and called her Raungier and she did not correct me.
Because she can't be asked dealing with your shit.
This is now correct.
Everyone in the world, including the person whose name it is, pronounces it this one way. But because she's so sick of arguing with arsehole fans about these mispronunciations, we can list those as being valid. Because I can't be asked to just say it the other way. It's like, oh my God. I feel so bad for her. Because people look at it, oh wow, all three pronunciations are correct. No, one is correct. These other two are bullshit. Stop saying that. It's like, oh man, it's no wonder she just stopped arguing with people if that's what she had to deal with. I can't imagine how frustrating and just draining it must be to have someone angrily insist that you're wrong about how to pronounce your own fucking name.
To be honest, do you not think maybe she's getting a bit of a taste of her own medicine after all the stuff she's fucked up in her own books?
Yeah, that might be a point, isn't it? Good old Voldemort. People who don't know, Voldemort is actually supposed to be pronounced Voldemort, because the French word for death is what Voldemort's name comes from, which is Mort or something like that, or M-O-R-T. And I believe in the very first audio book, the guy who read the audio books out called Rolling Up to say, how do I pronounce like this name here, Voldemort something? He went, yeah, that's correct. It's based on the French pronunciation of death, the French word for death. So in the original audio books, if Brad can find a clip maybe, he pronounces it Voldemort. However, when the films came around, she realised, oh man, Americans aren't going to get this. So she changed it to Voldemort. And that's the same reason why in America it's called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Because like her publisher went, Americans won't know what a philosopher is.
I don't understand this strange concept that Americans don't understand some words. I always wondered this.
That's why it's...
But the point is, if I see a book and there's a word I don't get, I look it up. Like, how are you going to read a book? Oh, I don't know what
I just
philosopher is.
find that idea hilarious, though. It's like, because she thought if we have this in the film, people are going to think it's stupid. Because like apparently so many people, when reading it out loud the first time, mispronounced it. Same with like Hermione. Apparently loads of people...
To be honest, I called her Hermione.
Yeah,
so.
Apparently a lot of people mispronounce Hermione as well. Apparently their thinking on set was because so many people reading the books mispronounced Voldemort as Voldemort, then fuck it, just change it, because I can't be asked how many people are going to write in and complain. It's like, oh man, you can't be that fast and loose with this. Like, it's great, that isn't it? When it's the audio books, it's like, oh yeah, it's fine, Voldemort, because it's based on the French, and she's like really smugly asserting, yes, oh, only a smart person would get that. And when the films come out, no, it's Voldemort. Oh, I love it. You can't beat the best change though, can you, Brad? You have your mother's eyes.
Oh god! Do you know the first poster for that? They changed the colour of his eyes.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously in the film they're glowing blue, and it's like they didn't hire an actress with the blue eyes, did they? Just to counter that claim.
Despite the fact every single person in the books says to him, "You have your mother's eyes," and now you got to put the meme image behind us.
The Snape one.
No, the meme image was like, "You have your mother's eyes." It's Harry doing that, and it's the girl who's also doing that.
The one I've seen was the one of...
It's so stupid, though.
The one I saw is the one of Snape, where it says, you have your mother's eyes, and it shows their eyes next to you, then that picture of Snape, like, with his arms flayed against the wall.
It's so bad. How do you make a mistake that bad?
It's like the whole point is that he looks like his dad, but he has his mother's eyes.
Because literally every single character who ever meets him, because obviously J.K. Rowling is not a great writer, says to him, "You have your mother's eyes," rather than saying something original.
Even though like you look like your dad.
Yeah, you like your dad, but you got your mother's eyes. What does that even mean?
I can't say I've ever looked at anyone and gone, "Oh man, you got your mother's
eyes
right there."
Because that's why it's such bad writing.
It's like the arrow to the knee, but with the eyes.
It's so cliche to write. And one of my favourite things about Rowling as a writer is that when she released that Inspector Calls, like the book she wrote under a pseudonym, because she didn't want to coast off of Harry Potter, was a review for it was, it's not a great novel, but it's okay for a first attempt. It's like she's got 7 multi-million selling books under her belt, but not bad for a first attempt.
Good for her.
Oh, God, I love her. It's just so bad, isn't it? 'Cause I like the idea when someone pointed out to me that she's such a bad writer because every time she introduces a character, she writes 2 pages of description of them and then never mentions anything about them ever again.
Rather than just easing it in through the story.
Yeah, she just whenever a new character is introduced, it's 2 full pages of description of what that character looks like, and she never talks about it ever again. Which is how so many people didn't know what any of the characters look like because she never talks about how they look ever again.
Yeah, but you want to talk about that? You want to talk about Tolkien and his naming of people? Aragorn, son of Arathorn, son of, and then 3 pages of that.
Yeah, why not though? Because he wasn't trying to write a book, is he? He was wanting to make up like a sick, awesome language for some elves.
He wanted to make up an entire world and just happened to be a book in it.
Well, I just love that though. That's so good.